Today we're scouting out what is probably the best question mark kick in the world. Watch the highlights, be sure to stick around for the tutorial after where we break down how Fietosa throws these amazing kicks. I hope everybody enjoyed that highlight of Glaube Fietosa. Many of you call this kick that comes up and over, you call it the question mark kick. That makes lots of sense. We called it, my buddies and I, my brother, we call it the Brazilian kick because when we grew up, when we were watching people learning how to do this, we watched Fietosa. All the guys who were throwing it were Brazilian. To us, it is the Brazilian kick. It'll always be the Brazilian kick. And this is the guy that I will always watch to see exactly how you can throw that. You can learn a lot by watching one athlete who is exceptional at a technique and trying to recreate their movement. And that is exactly what we are doing today. The very first thing which you should note is it takes flexibility, strength in the body, the hip, to be able to do this. If you are struggling in these areas, this is not the kick, this is not the tutorial for you to start on. You can go to this video, you can follow along, you can increase your flexibility, build some strength, and then come back and really work on this kick and everything I'm gonna point out right now. The very unique thing about Glaube Fietosa, I hope I'm saying that right, that's the way I've always said it. If I'm not, I apologize, but the very interesting thing about him is he throws off his lead leg, pretty much exclusively for this kick. It's off the lead leg and there's no footwork. It's not like he shuffles, it's not like he moves up, he doesn't do any of that. He just lifts his leg and he throws. And that's part of the magic behind it. It comes out of nowhere, as opposed to many people who kick off their back leg. But once you start kicking off this back leg, there's that extra time where people see something coming. I love it off the lead foot, the way Fietosa throws. So one of the first points of note when I watch him throw is as he lifts his front kick, he already starts to turn his chest sideways. Normally myself, I would not teach that. I would say, stay very square and then follow up. But he gets himself into this position initially. Some might say, okay, you know what? The fake is not as good because people are gonna recognize that's not how you throw a front kick, but it works for him. And very often you will see him throw a long front kick and then fake to get into that position where they are very scared of something coming directly down the middle. So keep that in mind and start trying to, if you want to recreate this kick, as you lift, turn your body. It could come off the back leg too. You're already opening up that upper body. In addition, he does some footwork as he lifts his leg initially. It's not just turn sideways and foot stays stationary. He pivots to a 90 degree if his foot is not already there. Sometimes it's already at the 90-degree angle, and if it's not, as he lifts, he turns that foot sideways. So he's already increased the pivot, which is gonna help open up and make his hip that much more fluid as he goes through the rest of the motion. An extra point for beginners on pivoting, you don't need to elevate very high. You're not changing your head level. I'm not doing this and then dropping. That takes a lot of extra time, a lot of extra energy, and throws you off balance. Whenever you pivot, you want to make sure, or at least on front kicks, you want to make sure you're just sliding your heel slightly off the ground. It's almost like the heel is just brushing the floor, and I don't have to worry about coming up and down. It's just turn. And very quickly you are locked into the ground and you are balanced. And if you guys are into my apparel, you like what you see, you can head over to X Martial. I'm gonna throw a link in the description below. Use that promo code Gabriel Varga to save 10%. Now as Fietosa lifts this leg up, this front kick, he extends the heel very slightly out, not too far because you don't want somebody to catch it. But if you just lift here and it's tight, it doesn't sell it as much as a slight extension. So note that and try when you practice this to extend your leg very slightly. I wouldn't say halfway to the kick. We're not gonna go that far. Just a slight little pop of the leg as it raises up. What this does, or one of the reasons I think it works so well, is once he starts that extension, he does everything else, he turns his body sideways, he pivots, he extends. Now, as he moves into the next motion, he can work on rechambering very quickly. And I think it's that extension to rechamber which helps whip that motion back and allow him to flip everything over so easy. And that is now the next step. He now increases his pivot, which was already 90 degrees. Now he goes beyond 90 degrees. And as he does that, as he pulls his leg back and he pivots, now that gives him the ability for this foot to lift above knee level. And that is the big key when Fietosa throws this. When we see people like Israel Adesanya, he'll kind of come like this, and he's coming very horizontal. That is not really a question mark kick, and neither is faking off the round kick. Coming from here to here is not really a question mark. The way Fietosa does it is legitimately the question mark motion. He comes up, and then he comes down. And that is the massive key here, which makes it so difficult to block this kick. In the highlights, you see so many people reach and they would block it, except he's way up here and dropping over top. So on the rechamber, we increase the pivot, we draw the leg back, and that foot comes above knee level. And if you're struggling with that motion, you feel like, oh, it's pulling on my groin, what you can do is you can just head to a wall, lift your leg up and practice flipping the foot up and grabbing the shin with your fingers. And that's where we really want to be. And it's going to pull, it's going to stretch, but that is what you can legitimately do. Up and turn. On either side, really. Up and turn. Grab that shin, open up that groin and those hips. Now Fietosa does the tiniest little fade back, which will help him with that flexibility. Remember, if my head is very high and I'm trying to kick above head level, oh, it really hurts. Once I just add the tiny little lean back, then I can get right up there. So he just does a little scooch backwards, the knee raises up, he rechambers, he turns it over, and he just leans back a little bit. And then from there, final stage, he can drop that foot downwards on top of his opponent's head. And this is an amazing kick. Absolutely fantastic. The thing to me, which is the most incredible of it, the whole list of all the points that we went through, is he just does it from here. There's nothing else. It's just off the lead leg, and it's just maybe a front kick first, boom, and then up, and the whole motion comes right through. And for myself right now, not really warmed up. Oh, it's hard. It's a hard thing to do. And one, a little pop there already. Two, and then I lift, and it's just so fluid. And I'll try to get it as good as Fietosa. It used to be an awesome kick. I kind of drew away from practicing it, but I have landed this in my amateur fights and I have scored TKOs off it, finished the fight. It is a kick that is fancy, but also absolutely works and can win you fights like that. So that is all. Make sure you head out, you watch some Glaube Fietosa fights. He was a legend in my mind in K1, didn't win the belt ever, but put up really, really good contest against the best fighters in the world, very often knocking them out with that Brazilian kick. Let's call it there, guys. As always, train hard. I'll see you back here soon for another episode.